Hi, this is Adrian. I'm here for a process vlog update. Um, Today I'd like to discuss some changes I'm making in my life, kind of transition with regards to education and work, career. So I suppose I'll start by giving a bit of perspective, a bit of history on my experience with education and work. When I was young, I did well in school initially, like at the younger ages, um, but as I got older, both my grades and my confidence and my interest in school took a yearly dive. And by the time I got to the university level, I really hated school. I had, from my experiences, created a lot of definitions, a lot of self-definitions with regards to who I apparently am and what I'm apparently capable of, with regards to work and being a student. Which had been very limiting, and also as well created a lot of definitions, ideas, perceptions of the education system and work and studying. So I basically became like a rebel, defined myself as not being a good student, and found justifications along the lines of school is fucked up, and people in school who do well in school are just slaves, and I'm better than them, and I'm smarter than them because I'm a rebel and I can think for myself and be independent and that kind of thing. And I thought I was sort of able to do that because I found a different niche for myself in my life, a different way of finding a place for myself in this world and surviving in this world, which was through music. I studied music and played music from a young age, and perhaps on some subconscious or unconscious level I became very good at music because it was like the thing I was good at doing that people recognized me for and gave value to me for, that that was something that I didn't, that I enjoyed, that I didn't hate. So that was sort of the plan. I basically put everything into that. I basically said fuck school. I got out of high school as fast as I could. I did not really try in school, and I never finished my university, although I did go to college because I studied music in college, and I really enjoyed that. Excuse me. I pretty much put everything into music and the band, and it was like that or nothing, or being a bum on the street. Although I didn't really, at least not as far as I'm aware, I didn't really worry about failing because I put a lot into it, and I was I developed myself a lot as a musician. I could do a lot of things, and I was an effective player, at least compared to other people. You could say I was a good musician. So an interesting thing happened. By the time I was in my early 20s, I was busy working on my project, which was my band, and just putting everything into that, and that was the plan. And I had, again, the confidence and sort of belief from others that I could do this and I was going to be successful. But around 2007, June of 2007, which is kind of interesting because it's a little bit of time after the portal opened with Desteni. the band ended up falling apart. Up until that point, for a number of months, the band had been deteriorating, and a lot of infighting was breaking out due to ego issues, friction between egos, and eventually, we broke up because of ego issues in June 2007, and by this point in my life, I was in rough shape. I'd really destroyed myself a lot and really neglected and disregarded myself by being so fixated on this survival mode and kind of living this musician, almost rock star lifestyle. So I was pretty burnt out on music. I mean, I actually really didn't even enjoy playing music at all. I was starting to hate it by this point in my life, and so rather than taking another kick at the can and starting another band and pursuing the same dream again, I was sort of beginning to lose faith and hope in everything I had basically put faith and hope in for my entire life. And that's when I started to, actually start researching other things and taking a look at this world and trying to figure out, basically what's going on in this world. Perhaps in relation to, why is my life so fucked? Why does life suck so much? Why did I fail? Why am I even living in a world where it's about failure, or where failure is even a possibility? And it's about failure and survival, or failure and success, rather, is what people call it. And that's when I found Destiny, and things began to really change for me. So, oh, and by the way, everything I mentioned with regards to my experience with education and the definitions I created and rebelling from education, I essentially did the same thing with work. And had the same experiences with work as being having shitty experiences in work, and the self-limitation as definitions I created for myself from those experiences of working jobs. So a few years later, of being involved with Destiny and applying the Destiny tools, applying self-honesty, self-forgiveness within the context of equality, oneness and equality as life, things have been changing a lot for me. And more recently, like in the last year, I've been involved in the Desteni I process. And it's been really fascinating. As recently, I did a mind construct, what's called a mind construct on jobs, career, and work. So within the mind construct, I started taking apart myself, my own self-definition, and some experiences I've had in my life with education and working, and just looking at who am I, how have I defined myself, how have I limited myself from these experiences. And it was fascinating what I found. It was fascinating to see, step by step, the play out of what was the event that happened, the memory that happened in my life. How did I experience myself within that memory, within that event? And from that experience, how did I judge myself and define myself and basically create myself as this person that I am now, that you call personality, that again is extremely self-limited. Because like I mentioned, I put everything into the rockstar thing, so anything but that, it was like, oh my god, I can't do it. I had all this confidence in the world apparently with becoming rich and famous and a rock star and being like the best drummer. But when it came to holding down a 9-to-5 job and being in the system and doing like more remedial, mundane tasks, it's like, oh my god, I could never do that. I could never live a normal life and live with that kind of stability. And obviously, seeing how all this works literally how I've created myself this way and defined myself in this way has assisted me extensively in being effective with self-forgiveness on these points, on all these beliefs and self-definitions, self-beliefs and self-definitions, um, and also the self-corrective application to see what how can I effectively direct myself when these self-imposed limitations start coming up as my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And this has been like crucial, absolutely paramount in what I'm doing right now in my life. Because right now in my life, basically what I am doing, because I'm not going back to the rockstar thing for a number of reasons. The whole starting point for what I was doing it was really fucked. I never took anyone but myself into consideration in what I was doing. And even now I'd say it's like impossible too, because the music industry is it's like gone. There's nothing. There's no money anymore in it, especially for the style of music I was playing, which is heavy metal. So I'm having to adapt, and basically what I'm doing is I'm going back to school and I'm learning how to do a new career, how to follow a new career path. And it's not given everything I mentioned about who I am and who I believe myself to be as this self-definition. It's not as simple as just, I'll just go to school and I'll just study and I'll just become a teacher. Like, again, I was a total rebel in school. I was a bad student, by the time I left school. So it's like, become a teacher, holy shit, and going back and finishing university and doing well in it. Holy shit, I could never do that, apparently. So it's not just as simple as the act of doing it, but literally facing myself and taking myself on as what I've allowed myself to create myself as, and accepted myself to be and become. So again, it's been crucial to understand how I've created this in order to remove all these self-imposed limitations to be able to be effective in going to school and taking on this new career path. And if I had not had this understanding and the support from the Desteni I process to have this understanding and be effective in self-correction and self-change, it's like, forget about it. The way I, again, with all these self-imposed limitations, self-definitions, self-beliefs, everything I believe I apparently am, everything I believe I apparently can and can't do, there's no way that I would be successful in school. And that's why I dropped out. Because before I was at least doing it just to have like the backup plan, but the limitation became so extensive that I couldn't even do that. So it's really cool, and it's really cool to show yourself that these limitations really aren't real. You start to prove to yourself that you in fact are the directive principle in your life, and you really can create yourself in a way that's best for yourself and everybody. We simply require the tools and the support to be able to effectively do that. And so that's what I realized more and more recently with regards to having to make decisions and dedicate myself to school and work in a new career. I'm actually working as a teacher right now already in a high school in Asia for the last 2.5 years. But in making these decisions to go back to school and start a new career, I realized it wasn't just as simple as just making a couple decisions and just doing a couple things. This was like about who I am, about my life. Um, like, I don't want to make something more than or more profound than what it is, but I just realized that like, this is about my life, and I really have to do this for myself. It's not just necessarily about the school and the work, it's about freeing myself, it's about supporting myself, it's about self-respect, self-worth, self-love. You know, it's not just about school necessarily and a job. Um, so I find that pretty interesting. um, right, so that's all I wanted to say. And again, you know, you really don't see quite how extensively you've limited yourself and cut yourself short until you really investigate what you've become. And it's difficult to see that because you become it, which is why the support on how do you see it and how do you support yourself within it is so crucial. And that's where the Desteni I process has been so effective. You know, so anything that you believe that you apparently can't do, and I mean, we all do it. We all really limit ourselves and sell ourselves short. I mean, nobody is really living to their full potential. But once you start to do that by actually taking the steps, not sitting around, continuing within the realm of, contemplating within the realm of, oh, can I do it? Can I not do it? Which is still just trying to understand it within the self-imposed limitation you've already created. But just giving yourself a chance. That's what I realize. It's like I feel like I've never even given myself a chance, in my whole life. So taking on the actual act of like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, even though I might believe I can't, and I may not exactly know how to, I'm going to take the necessary steps and apply myself in taking those steps to sort myself out, unconditionally. Not looking for a cookie, or again, not within any kind of belief of what you can do or what you can do, and within that maybe even kidding yourself into creating like a positive drive, like a lot of motivational speakers and people do when they just like give people a lot of positive stimulation. It's like, you can do it, yeah, you're the best, be the best you can be. But it's all just words of positivity without any real substance, of like, how do you actually do it practically? I mean, that's real positivity, because that's actual, real, living, practical actions that accumulate into, it's real self-support, and actually, have a consequential outflow that will improve you, that will benefit you, that will, and in turn benefit everybody else, because again, you become that living example of self-support and self-love and self-worth, that you can only give to yourself. Okay, that's all I wanted to share for now. Thanks.